Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We tend to think of our physical movements and our cognitive functions as two totally separate systems, right? Like the brain does the thinking, the body does the moving. But the reality? It is so much more interconnected than that. Today, we're going to explore how physical clumsiness, something we usually just brush off, might actually be a direct window into your brain's health.
So think about this. Could a simple dizzy spell, or maybe just a slight shuffle in your step, actually be the earliest warning sign of cognitive decline? I know, it's a pretty provocative question, but validating these everyday observations is absolutely crucial. It's so easy to just write off a stumble as, oh, I'm just getting older, but your body might actually be sounding a subtle alarm.
All right, moving into Section 1, the brain-body connection.
Just maintaining our balance requires a surprisingly complex, synchronized effort from four totally distinct systems. First up, you've got your inner ears, the vestibular system, which give you that three-dimensional equilibrium. Second, your vision is constantly tracking the horizon. Third, your peripheral nerves and muscles are providing the actual physical strength and sensation to tell you exactly where the ground is. And finally, the brain acts as the ultimate command center, orchestrating all these motor programs. It's like a giant puzzle, and if just one of these pieces misfires, the whole system gets thrown off balance. Literally.
Let's transition over to Section 2, dizziness as early warning.
Dizziness often serves as an early and frequently overlooked warning sign of dementia. Now, that is a direct finding from the Optoceutics clinical team. They've found that inexplicable vertigo often shows up well before an official dementia diagnosis is even made. See, when neurodegeneration starts altering the brain's balance centers, a person might feel a very real sense of spinning, long before memory issues become obvious to anyone else.
Take orthostatic hypotension, for example. You might know it as that rapid drop in blood pressure when you stand up too fast, causing intense lightheadedness. But why does this happen with cognitive decline? Well, in conditions like Lewy body dementia, proteins actually build up and mess with your autonomic nervous system. Essentially, your brain's automatic pressure regulator is faltering, which is what causes that dizzy, lightheaded feeling when you get out of bed in the morning.
Now, comparing two different conditions shows us exactly why dizziness is such a huge red flag for vascular issues compared to, say, Alzheimer's. With vascular dementia, which is caused by small strokes depriving the brain of oxygen, that tissue damage directly hits your balance, making dizziness a really acute early symptom. Alzheimer's, on the other hand, starts with episodic memory failure. The balance issues typically don't show up until much later on, when the disease finally reaches the brain's coordination centers.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3. Unpacking gait disorders. Let's talk about how we walk. You'll often hear doctors use the clinical term ataxia. This essentially means a lack of coordination, resulting in a staggering, wide-based, or just generally unsteady walk. It's usually caused by dysfunction in the brain's cerebellum. De-jargonizing this a bit, ataxia basically means your brain is struggling to cohesively string together the alternating movements of the hips, knees, and ankles that you need to walk normally. The motor program is, well, it's glitching. And it turns out, different cognitive issues produce incredibly specific walking patterns. For instance, a shuffling or festinating gait, where someone takes short, quick steps to catch up with a stooped posture, is a classic hallmark of Parkinson's. Then there's the frontal gait, or gait apraxia, where the person literally feels magnetically stuck to the floor. We see this a lot in advanced Alzheimer's or vascular disease. Finally, there's the cautious gait, a stiff-legged, super slow walk that someone adopts simply out of a deep fear of falling. These physical clues, they are incredibly telling. And if you're thinking, well, this must be pretty rare, get this. 62% of patients over the age of 80 experience a gait disorder of some kind. 62%. It's a staggering number that really highlights just how widespread these brain-body disconnects are. We're talking about a massive issue that absolutely demands proactive care.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, the power of dual tasking. Let's look at some actionable solutions.
So, dual tasking involves exercises that pair a cognitive challenge right alongside physical movement. This concept is a total game changer. Why? Because it forces your brain to manage concurrent demands, strengthening both your cognitive and physical pathways at the exact same time. You're training the brain to integrate thought and movement, which is the exact process that starts to fail during cognitive decline. To make this concrete, imagine trying to name items in a specific category, like, say, zoo animals or breakfast foods, or sorting colored cards all while actively stepping in place. Try to picture that in action. Bridging cognitive training with functional mobility perfectly mimics real-world challenges, like walking down a busy sidewalk while holding a conversation with a friend. It's highly practical, functional training for your neural networks.
All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Exercise as Medicine.
Movement truly is a multi-tool for well-being. Look at the cognitive side. You get increased cerebral blood flow and visibly improved processing speed. Physically, strengthening those muscles leads to fewer falls. Emotionally, getting moving modulates neurotransmitters, which releases endorphins and noticeably reduces daytime agitation. And let's not forget sleep. Daytime physical activity helps regulate your circadian rhythms, consolidating nighttime sleep and reducing middle-of-the-night wandering. It literally alters brain chemistry across multiple domains all at once.
But here's the catch. To be effective, these interventions have to evolve. You absolutely must adapt the exercise to the specific stage of dementia. In the early stages, activities can be totally independent and goal-oriented, like joining a walking group. By the middle stages, we need to shift to that guided dual tasking we talked about, using simplified one-step verbal cues. And in the late stages, the goals shift entirely from skill acquisition to comfort. We focus on sensory-based movement and passive range of motion just to maintain good circulation. It's all about meeting the person exactly where they are.
For any caregivers tuning into this explainer, here is a highly effective, safe daily routine you can implement right at home. Step 1. Start with a warm-up of 5 to 10 minutes of seated marches. Get the blood flowing. Step 2. Move into a main set using chair-based leg extensions and bicep curls. This builds functional strength for daily transfers, like getting up out of a chair. Step 3. Finish up with a cool-down of gentle stretching and mindful breathing. It's totally accessible, it minimizes fall risks, and the benefits are immense when you do it consistently.
Also, keep in mind that exercise doesn't have to feel clinical or boring. Embedding movement into purposeful, everyday tasks provides physical benefits while giving someone a profound sense of contribution. Things like raised bed gardening, folding laundry, setting the table, or even simple meal prep, they all count. Even music and dance therapy act as amazing, low-barrier entry points tied to happy memories. When you make movement a natural, purposeful part of the day, you reduce resistance and massively enhance quality of life. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, from the complex neurology of a tiny dizzy spell to the profound power of a simple seated march. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. If movement is truly medicine for the mind, what small step will you take today to bridge your brain and body? Think about how you can proactively protect your own health. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.